The most famous advice about concise writing comes from Strunk and White's Elements of Style, where they have this rule. Omit needless words. Vigorous writing is concise. A sentence should contain no unnecessary words, a paragraph no unnecessary sentences, for the same reason that a drawing should have no unnecessary lines and a machine no unnecessary parts. This requires not that the writer make all his sentences short, or that he avoid all detail and treat his subjects only in outline, but that every word tell. This advice, as you can see, is itself concise, right? They wrote it in such a way so that they could prove the point that they were making. And the important part I'd like to hone in on is that they're not saying that concise writing means brief writing. Okay, you can write a 1,000-page novel that still contains writing that's concise, because a wordy novel is different from a lengthy novel. Not all lengthy novels are wordy. Some might be. But a good writer can still write a lot in a manner that is concise. So I'm going to show you this video clip from the TV show The West Wing, which was a fictional accounting of a fictional president. And in this episode, the very beginning, the president is talking to the press secretary. They're going to an event where they're going to talk to students about a NASA ship that's landing on Mars. And you see that they talk about writing. So we're going to watch the beginning of the clip, and then I'll skip ahead a little bit.
Galileo 5.
Yes, sir.
Just the name.
Galileo 5.
You can feel the adventure.
Yes, indeed.
NASA's great at naming things.
They are.
Mercury, Apollo, Atlantis, the Sea of Tranquility, the Ocean of Storms.
Good names.
First time I heard Galileo 5, the way the imagination immediately, it reminded me of the way folks in my generation felt when we heard Yellow Submarine.
Okay.
We really did all want to live in a yellow
I
submarine.
can't believe they gave you people driver's licenses.
Tell me where we're going again.
Mars briefing rehearsal.
Why?
To rehearse.
Say the name.
I said the name.
Say it again. Your imagination, like a child, will explode with unrestrained possibilities for adventure.
Galileo 5.
You didn't say it right.
I said it fine.
Say it again.
Who wrote this intro?
I did.
You're from NASA Public Affairs?
Yeah.
You mind if I give it a polish?
Is there a problem?
No, it's great. You mind if I change it?
I'd prefer if you didn't.
Just the same.
Public Affairs has cleared the text. If it's going to be changed, I'd prefer if the president changed it.
See, that's kind of what he pays me to do, so...
Look, I don't want to step on your toes. You don't want to step on mine. We're both writers.
Yes, I suppose, if we broaden the definition to those who can spell.
Excuse me?
Good morning.
Okay, so there's this argument now over the statement that the president's going to give at the beginning of the address. And so if we skip ahead, you'll see that they're rehearsing it, and the president is reading what this NASA person has written.
Can I see the intro?
It's up on the prompter.
Ah, good morning. I'm speaking to you live from the West Wing of the White House. Today, we have a very unique opportunity to take part live in an extremely historic event which, whoa, boy.
How you doing, Mr. President?
Who wrote this intro?
I did, sir. I'm Scott Tate from NASA Public Affairs.
Scott, unique means one of a kind. Something can't be very unique, nor can it be extremely historic.
While we're at it, do we have to use the word live twice in the first two sentences like we just cracked the technology?
Look,
We're also broadcasting in living color, right?
Sam,
Yeah.
he's going to make some changes.
You can clear him with me?
I doubt it. Write this. Good morning. 11 months ago, a 1,200-pound spacecraft blasted off from Cape Canaveral, Florida. 18 hours ago, is it 18 hours ago? We're on the air at noon Eastern.
Yeah.
18 hours ago, it landed on the planet Mars. You, me, and 60,000 of your fellow students across the country, along with astroscientists and engineers from the Jet Propulsion Lab in Southern California, NASA Houston, and right here at the White House, we're going to be the first to see what it sees and to chronicle the extraordinary voyage of an unmanned ship called Galileo 5.
He said it right.
All right, so the reason I like this clip is you get a good example of what concise writing is, right? So that argument over something can't be very unique because unique is one of a kind. Something can't be extremely historic. It either is historic or it isn't historic. And historic is already an extreme. But then you also see that the example of good writing that they give is not brief to the point of meaningless or short to the point of being, unnecessary. If you cut something down to be so short that it's, a waste of time, then that's the opposite of good writing too. he still writes a lot, but his wording is not clunky. It's not wordy. So how do we note the difference between writing that is wordy and writing that is concise? There's lots of guidebooks out there. I actually like this article on Grammarly that I think gives you 5 really simple tips that kind of expand upon this strunk and white advice. And the 5 examples they give are: eliminate redundant words, strengthen weak adjectives, remove vague nouns, eliminate filler words, construct active sentences. So I'll click here on this article. It's by Mira Khanna. And I want to do that because you can see even in just the examples they give, we could keep working on it. So eliminate redundant words. In my opinion, I think that's a problem. Well, you've already said in my opinion, so you don't need to say I think that's a problem. I actually think you could cut out in my opinion, depending upon the context of what you're writing. But if you say something's a problem, that's opinionated. Weak adjectives, so words that are modifying nouns. Brunch was very good. Combine very good into something stronger. Now we have one word for 2 words. Vague nouns. I'm interested in the areas of history and biology. I'm interested in history and biology. You don't need to say the areas of. So a lot of this is just cutting out words that are already doing the work of other words. Some of it is replacing them or condensing them. This actually is a better example of the adjective one. She struggled to sit through his really boring speech. Tedious is a better word because it really encapsulates really boring. So you see how you've condensed. Here you've cut out words. Filler words. For all intents and purposes, this project will be outsourced. The project will be outsourced. So this is I love this saying, but this is something you should speak. You shouldn't really write it. Needless to say, all of these things are things that we kind of need as we're talking to help our brain move along. That's why we have these little, kind of colloquial sayings. But we should get grilled cheese sounds better in writing. This one's a little bit more complex. It requires you to know the difference between active and passive voice, which is really should be another lesson. But what it's saying is that the thing that's doing the action of the verb should come in first place, basically. So the error message was written by robots. Always let the thing that's doing the work come first, which makes the sentence more active. Robots wrote the error message. This is both better writing and shorter writing, more concise. If this was something caused on our end, it might be something to be aware of. That's really clunky. So who's doing what? We are, right? We should be aware of this in case something on our end caused it. Or you can even reduce it. We should be aware of this in case we caused it. There you know the actor of the sentence. So let's go back to these slides and see if we can see this more in practice in the journalistic world. So this is an example of a few sentences from an opinion piece that we were publishing at our school a number of years ago about, should people buy lunch more, bring lunch more, and the cost of lunch had just increased. Now it's free, but at that point it cost money. So here's what it said. Disregarding the alternative of buying lunch from outside the school, some students choose to bring their own food from home. In light of the lunch price increase, the consensus of students seems to be that the number of individuals bringing lunch from home will increase. In reality, though, the average price of a home-produced meal is $3 compared to the school's $1.75. I'm sure that many parents would rather avoid both the extra time and hassle of preparing a homemade lunch as well as paying the extra money for the ingredients. Now, these are fine ideas, but they're very wordy. So, what I'm going to do is, in this next slide, show you areas where I would put these tips to work. So, I've condensed them into basically, should we cut out writing or should we modify writing? So I think these 3 tips, strengthen, remove vague nouns, construct active sentences, usually involves replacing. So you're not removing the vague noun and leaving no noun, you're just replacing it with a better noun. And this, eliminate redundant and filler words, involves cutting out. So disregarding the alternative of buying lunch from outside the school. Some students choose to bring their own food from home. I think we can cut a lot of that out, because if you just say some students bring food from home, it's implied, right? Why do they bring food from home? Because they're not going to buy lunch at school. In light of the lunch price increase, the consensus of students seems to be that the number of individuals bringing lunch from home will increase. From a journalistic perspective, I don't know that we can say this. The consensus of students seems to be. Have we polled students? How do we know that? So it's imprecise, but it's also wordy. So I would just rewrite this whole sentence. And I think what you're doing there is you're going to be removing filler words as well as just providing much more of an active sentence, according to tip number 5. In reality, though, I don't know that we need the though, but everything else here looks fine. I'm sure that this is kind of like the examples from Grammarly. We know it's your opinion, so we don't need to have that voice there. Many parents would rather avoid both the extra time and hassle of preparing a homemade lunch as well as paying. You see how this is so wordy? The extra time and hassle, that's redundant. So that's removing redundant language. Preparing a homemade lunch, making lunch is homemade, we got it. As well as paying the extra money for the ingredients. Of course, we know it's for the ingredients. So let's see what we can do here. Some students bring food from home. Many parents might think school lunch is more expensive. However, the average price of a homemade meal is $3 compared to the school's $1.75. Parents would save time and money by allowing their children to buy school lunch more often. So let's look at that last sentence in particular. I'm sure that many parents would rather avoid both the extra time and hassle of preparing a homemade lunch as well as paying the extra money for the ingredients. Parents would save time and money by allowing their children to buy school lunch more often. I think that's much more concise, much more direct. The verb is better. Parents would save time and money. We've condensed them together. And then really the point of this is to argue this point by allowing their children to buy school lunch more often. This whole thing about money and because they would pay the extra money for the ingredients, that's all implied by the previous sentence, which says it's more expensive. So we don't need to repeat. A lot of it is reducing repetition and then finding better words that do a lot more work. So what words and phrases can do more work in shorter spaces? So we've cut this in half. It was 92 words, as you see here, and now this final version is 46 words. So use these tips. It's okay if you start out a draft and you just write, and then you come back to it and you start applying these editing tips. As many people have said before, writing is not just about sitting there and producing a draft. Writing is about rewriting. It's where you really craft what you've written into something strong. So this will apply to any article that you write for journalism, but as I said earlier, it can apply to anything that you write.